Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Absolutely beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Monday. We are launching yet another very busy broadcast week, September 29th, and absolutely gorgeous. In the Finger Lakes region, there is nothing like autumn in New York. The sky is crystal clear. And we are facing down right now in this country a lot of enemies of liberty. And we have a lot to get to today, but at least it's beautiful. And I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. The Buffalo Bills won again. They're 4-0. So that was exciting as well. And we have a big week this week for you guys. We have, as I mentioned, or as you saw in the headlines today, we are going to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio today UK influencer Doc Malik. He was a warrior for liberty during the dark days of lockdown and the rollout of the poison shots. And he's going to join us to discuss the very swift and disturbing rollout of a nationwide digital ID in the UK. It is a scheme that they are pushing out in Australia, in Switzerland, and now UK. It is sweeping across Europe. But the reaction and the resistance is growing. Over 2 million have signed a petition now rejecting the digital ID, and the resistance is ramping up in Great Britain. So Doc Malik is there. He's on the ground. He's leading this resistance. And we are going to talk to him about what this rollout looks like in the UK. It's important because they're going to do the same thing here in the United States of America. Of course, they are using immigration, mass migration, violence, shootings, all of the things to frighten people into accepting mass surveillance, a digital ID, digital currencies, and the new global technocracy. This is the fight of our lives. Make no mistake, you will be tempted. I've mentioned to you guys often on the Shannon Joy Show, the most difficult part of this job is the editorial part. It is deciding in a flurry of headlines, like a fire hose in my face every day, as I say very often. So many headlines out there. The news cycle moves so incredibly fast. And it really is not about what am I going to talk about today. It's about what am I not going to talk about today? How am I going to focus in on the things that matter the most to all of you? Filtering out the nonsense and the fear porn and the partisan posturing and all of the headlines that they want us to focus on so that we remain fearful, isolated, separated, divided, and vulnerable to these types of expansions of governmental power and control. Here on the Shannon Joy Show, as you know, not right, not left. We are completely independent. And every day I try to report on the stories that matter, the stories that will impact you and your family directly, that will cause great upheaval in your lives, right? But also the stories that you can directly impact. You're not impotent, you aren't powerless. There is much that we can do. And right now, we can reject the fear porn. We can reject the 24-hour news cycle that is moving us into a position to accept digital surveillance, digital currencies, and also the digital ID. We can reject that. We can say no. We can say no to the biometric scans at the airport. We can say no to the digital ID or the national ID that they are rolling out. And make no mistake, I mean, the words are stark and they are clear. It reminds me of the lockdowns of 2020 when they locked down the entire world, made all of us miserable, and then dangled freedom in front of us, only it was at the end of a needle. The only way you could re-enter society or work or go to your job or engage in society as a whole is if you went out and got your COVID shot. And hundreds of millions, billions of citizens worldwide were coerced, manipulated, and bullied into getting shots against their will? Are you going to be coerced, manipulated, or bullied into accepting a digital ID? We are all going to be tempted by the news of the day, the flurry of headlines. We're going to be tempted to let that news draw us into supporting, demanding, or even worse, ignoring the implementation of tyranny. And this is the problem with the conservative right in the medical freedom movement. Those who were very aware of the lies behind the COVID lockdowns and the manipulation, the propaganda, the psyop that was deployed against we, the people of the United States of America, by our own military in the last year of the Trump administration. So many who were awake to that, who could see that manipulation, who understood that the COVID shots, there's no way they could be safe, who were able to resist all of that propaganda. So many of them now are so firmly in mass formation, idolatry of Donald Trump and MAGA, believing that somehow the guy who locked us down in the first place is going to be the guy to emancipate us or save us from those lockdowns, or the people who locked us down in the first place. It makes no sense. But so many are now asleep, they are impotent, and they are not activating because they believe that their guy is in a position of power, when I have been telling you since the very beginning that their guy is a Trojan horse. Trump is the mechanism to draw in the conservative right and the medical freedom movement through MAHA and the collaboration with Bobby Kennedy Jr. into the digital prison system. There are many voices out there who are ringing the alarm bells on this. Catherine Austin Fitts is one of them. She will be with us hopefully this week. She's supposed to be in on Wednesday. We might have to move her to next week. Of course, we have Doc Malik today with us. Tomorrow, the great David Knight will be joining us live in the Joy Virtual Studio to talk about all of those things as well. And we're going to continue to bring those voices who are outside of the two-party political spectrum, who are telling the truth. This is a very real and present danger. And so you're going to see these headlines: a mass shooting here, a mass shooting there, violence because of migration or illegal immigration in an urban area around you. You're going to see the headlines. They're going to try to draw you in to accepting surveillance, to accepting the expansion of the police state, to accepting the digital ID, which is necessary for implementing digital currencies, whether it's private banking digital currencies, which they're trying to pitch right now, or central banking digital currencies. They all work in the same way. It is command and control. And so we have to filter out those headlines as much as we want to get into the partisan bickering and, rolling the most irritating and annoying posts from liberal Democrats and focusing on Biden and focusing on Hillary Clinton and focusing on the Democrats and all of the things that they're doing. We have to be focusing on the people who are in power now and how they are manipulating us and using the rhetoric of the right and the fear buttons that you can push to get the right to accept surveillance and tyranny, right? They're using those right now. And I guess, the only opposition that we have right now in the US is the left, which is insane. But I think right now, as far as what we're going to be focusing on right here in the Shannon Joy Show over the next 6 months, digital IDs and digital currency, they work together. You cannot have one without the other, and we have to resist them all. So we're going to be having the best experts on technocracy in to talk about these things. Also, the mRNA mass democide. Millions upon millions of Americans, babies and pregnant women, are still being injected with the poison shots. And they now have 500 new mRNA technologies in the hopper that are set to be approved by the FDA in the coming 6 to 12 months. The mass poisoning is still happening, and we're seeing horrifying cancers as a result. This administration and unfortunately HHS have done nothing to pull those off the market, which is a tragedy. So that's the second most important story. I think the Epstein files, Epstein and the Epstein network, it is the infrastructure of the cartel system, the criminal enterprises that are running governments across the globe. It's not just sex trafficking. It's not just honeypot. It's not just blackmail and coercion of political leaders. It's also weapons trafficking, money laundering, and criminal cartels, human trafficking, organ trafficking. All right. These are the entities that are running our governments right now. And they are the best way to understand this is with this Epstein situation, the Epstein files and exposing the Epstein network. Again, Jeffrey Epstein was not a mastermind. He was a plug-in. He was one part of a much larger system that I do believe Donald Trump is also heavily involved with. And all of the billionaire backers, they're also tethered to the tech bros and the technocracy as well. So this is the criminal organization running things. This is why we have to keep our scrutiny on the Epstein files, which we will here on the Shannon Joy Show. Also, exposing the uniparty. This is the way they keep us divided. Democrat versus Republican. When we talked to Doc Malik today, he's in the UK. In the United Kingdom, they have the same version of the uniparty. They play the British people against each other in the same way we are played against each other as Americans by the D's and the R's. Exposing the uniparty is one of the critical components of getting people out of that two-party political paradigm that is keeping them divided and ignorant and vulnerable. And so we will continue to expose the uniparty here in the Shannon Joy Show. And then for fifth and final, in terms of what we're going to focus on this show moving forward for the next year, surviving all of it. How do you survive? How do you protect your family? How do you become emancipated? How do you regain your power? They're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at us. And all we can do is find each other, prepare as best as we possibly can, and survive it. And we will. Absolutely. Financially, physically, in terms of our mental health, we can go out and live. We do not have to be a slave to their news headlines, to their manipulations, to their divisive tactics and their coercion. And so if we take great heart today, they have all the money, all the power, they're decrepit, they're horrifying. They want all the things. They want the global digital technocracy, techno-fascism, right? And they're going to do everything they can to implement it. But guess what? If 10% of us across the globe nationwide reject this and refuse to comply, even if they threaten us with taking our jobs, taking our livelihood, taking our fortunes, imprisoning us, shunning us, pushing us out of society. We saw all of this during the dark days of COVID. For those of you who rejected the vaccine, refused to take it, 35 to 40% right here in the United States of America, you're doing just great right now, aren't you? It was scary at the time. You thought you were going to lose everything, but guess what? It was that remnant, that group of people who resisted and refused to comply, even though they told us it's inevitable. There's no way you can resist this. Everyone's going to get the vaccine. You might as well just give up. Well, enough of us refused to give up. Enough of us said no. And guess what? The wheels are falling off of the pharma jalopy. They can't get people to take these shots anymore. Everything is falling apart. They are desperate to get you on this digital currency and the digital ID. They're going to do everything to convince you that it's inevitable, that you can't resist it, that everyone's going to do it. This is the way that the world is going, and there's nothing you can do about it. Resist that thinking. We don't need the majority of the population to understand this. We need 10%, probably less than that. And we'll probably get 30. Because I can tell you the resistance to the digital ID and the digital currencies is growing, and it is swift. 2 million people in just a couple days. And we're going to learn a lot from Dr. Malik here in the Shannon Joy Show about how he is resisting. He is leading some of that resistance in the United Kingdom. And he's going to be with us in just a few minutes on the Shannon Joy Show. But I want to say hello to all of you first. Let's thank our sponsors. Speaking of resisting, emancipating, and preparing, I don't know if you guys have seen what is going on with gold, but there are major moves happening right now. And if you have not put together a gold strategy, if you do not have metals, physical metals in a safety deposit box or a safe. And also, if you haven't backed up your retirement with physical gold and silver through a self-directed IRA, you need to make these phone calls today. This is happening much faster than anyone has anticipated. And we now have a 45% surge in the price of gold just this year. And it has soared just over the weekend in the past couple of days to 3,800. Everyone now is getting into gold. If you think it's overvalued now, think again. It is also being reported that it is very, very likely that the U.S. Treasury could move towards revaluing gold. And if they do that, guys, if the new global system is built on a new revaluation of gold, it could go, I mean, there's no limit to how high gold and silver metals can soar, right? So now is the time. I know I've been talking to you guys about this for years, and so many of you have called Colonial Metals Group, or you've gone to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. There's an 800 number. Go to my page, find that number, let them know that I sent you. This is a conversation that you have to have, because it appears that they've been trying to shove people in to crypto, meme coins, tokens, and Bitcoin desperately over the past year, as all of the most wealthy 1%ers are moving into physical assets, land, water, gold, silver, and all of the physical assets they can get their hands on. They are grabbing them up as fast as possible and diverting the public. They're trying to get the little guy, the middle class, upper middle class, small to medium-sized businesses. They want you in all of the fake stuff as they are beginning to accumulate the real stuff. There is still time for you guys to get into the real stuff and to protect yourself so that you have a bridge when things fall apart. In fact, this is what Ray Dalio had to say. This was reported in Fortune magazine last week. Legendary billionaire investor Ray Dalio has issued a stark warning about the future of the United States and the United Kingdom, stating he's not optimistic about either nation's trajectory and believes we are heading into very dark times. Drawing on his own proprietary study of 500 years of history, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, points to a predictable 80-year cycle that suggests an era of significant global and internal strife is indeed upon us. And that is when you see the economy fall apart. You can protect yourself. This is what I do. I've been a customer of Colonial Metals Group for almost 2 years. They've been amazing sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. It is much easier. Many people are just taking their 401k or IRA. They're shaving off 30%, maybe 40%, and they're just dumping that right into a physical gold and silver-backed IRA as a hedge. I cannot recommend this conversation with an advisor enough. So please go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Do not delay. They are saying, in other words, and this is from Zero Hedge. We're going to go to break in just a minute. But yeah, what they're saying, on the back of a 45% surge in the price of gold this year, U.S. Treasury's hoard of this barbarous relic, I love Zero Hedge, has surpassed $1 trillion in value for the first time in history. U.S. gold remarking and revaluing. You knew about this a month ago because we brought it to you here on the Shannon Joy Show. There's a letter that was released from the Federal Reserve exploring a revaluation of gold and silver, very similar to the tectonic moves, Bretton Woods, however many years ago, that pulled everyone off the gold standard. What they're saying is that U.S. gold remaking or remarking would have implications for both Treasury and Fed. The U.S. Treasury assets would rise by the value of the gold remarking, and liabilities would rise by the size of gold certificates issued to the Fed. And then the Federal Reserve assets would rise by value of the gold certificates, and liabilities would rise by a credit of cash in the Treasury cash balance. Here's the punchline. The Fed balance sheet impact would look like quantitative easing, though no open market purchases would be required, and the Fed liability growth would initially be in TGA. In other words, and this is what they're saying, the best of all worlds, in a QE, quantitative easing like operation. Okay, so they're cheating. All right, they're cheating. Make no mistake about this. But it's using gold as the backing. In a QE operation, one which sees the Fed quietly funnel almost $700 billion in cash to the Treasury, but without doing a thing. So on net, a gold remaking would increase the size of both Treasury and Fed balance sheets. It's unorthodox. It's going to be volatile, but again, it's all based on gold. So if that's what, and you know, you can see by the behavior of gold and silver right now that they are looking to do this. So we're going to work on getting Peter Schiff in the Joy Virtual Studio as soon as possible, because he is the expert on this, and what he's been saying actually has been right. But again, there is something you can do. You're not a victim. We're not victims. We can keep our heads on our shoulders and make sure that we are hedged against any type of this market volatility, the crushing of the dollar, devaluation of the dollar. And you can do that through a gold and silver strategy. So colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Okay, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to bring in our good friend, Doc Malik of the UK. He is an amazing influencer. You can follow him on Twitter. His website is also linked on the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. We're going to talk about digital IDs and digital currencies. You can't separate the two. You need to have everyone on a digital ID in order to make the global digital currency system work. And that was explained pretty brilliantly by Whitney Webb. I'm going to try to get to a really good 8-minute video. She explains this so very well. And then we'll talk to Doc Malik about the current resistance in the United Kingdom and more. We need to learn from what the Brits are doing, and we have to get ready. Similarly to the way that we resisted the COVID vaccines, we are now going to have to resist these digital IDs, and there will necessarily be pain involved. But if we do it together and we learn from what is happening in Australia and in Switzerland and in the UK, we can prepare here in the US to say, oh, hell no to Donald Trump and any version of digital ID that they try to implement here in the United States of America. We can resist it. So when we come back, we are going to begin that conversation with the Doc Malik. Keep it tuned right here on the Shannon Joy Show. We'll be back in a minute. I am absolutely blessed to be sponsored by this amazing product. This is a miracle. It is the Relief Band. I don't know if you guys have heard me talking about Relief Band. I have it here. I brought it with me. I don't know if you can see it. This is nothing short of a miracle. I have told you all about my daughter, Mimi, and her chronic car sickness since she was a tiny little baby. My poor darling Mimi, every time she got into the car, if she was in for more than 15 or 20 minutes, would get so sick. I think she probably threw up in my car over 200 times from the time she was a year old till she was 4 years old, until she got a little bit older. But even persisting into her teens, every time she gets into the car, if it's too long of an extended period of time, she gets so sick, nauseated, feels like she's going to throw up. And it's been constant. Well, we recently found Relief Band. They're sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. And I used this with Mimi for our trip to New York City. And it was nothing short of a miracle for nausea, migraines, headaches, morning sickness. If you have a loved one who is pregnant and just suffering with morning sickness, people who are struggling with illness and nausea from chemotherapy, this absolutely tackles it. It's an amazing, patented, clinically proven, FDA cleared technology. And basically how it works, I won't go into it in detail, but this is the Relief Band. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just this little guy. And what you do is you take the gel, you put this gel right on your wrist. You put the Relief Band on your wrist, right? And it sends this little pulse, like this little shock, right, into your wrist. And it essentially, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's magic. We'll get into the science of it in another read. But basically, it sends a signal to your brain. Then it signals to the stomach to reduce nausea and provides immediate relief. It is an amazing, I did not think that this was going to work. They sent it to us. I'm like, there's no way that this thing is going to work. It was a miracle. 6 hours that Mimi spent in the car on our trip without even a smidgen of nausea or headache. It was an absolute miracle. And right now, the Relief Band is 20% off for the Joy audience. So if you are interested, reliefband.com. That's reliefband.com. 20% off with the JOY promo code, and they're going to send you free shipping as well. This is an amazing device. I cannot recommend it enough, especially for people who have dealt with chronic, nausea and headaches. Thank you to our friends over at Relief Band. Again, the website, reliefband.com. That's reliefband.com. Promo code JOY for 20% off. We also love our partnership with our friends over at the Satellite Phone Store. In an emergency, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a government-inflicted pseudo-emergency, whatever it is, the more prepared you are, the better off you're going to be, and the better you're going to be able to make decisions for your family that will help you in the long term. And so Satellite Phone Store has been our one-stop shop at the Shannon Joy household for everything that we need to be prepared. Whether it is a solar panel or a generator, they have all sizes of generators that you can use in short term, long term, whether it's the Faraday collection, right? Protecting your devices from EMP, EMF, and also protecting your bodies from EMF radiation, 5G, 4G, 3G, you name it, all the Gs. They have the most extensive line of Faraday products, I think, on the market, and they are the highest quality Faraday you can get. From the blankets, the beanies, and the bags. They are always 10% off when you use the promo code JOY. So go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. Always use that JOY promo code. It always works. And of course, they have the satellite phones. The best way for you to keep in touch with your loved ones when the lights go out. And as we have seen in recent news headlines, the lights are going out more and more. And as they are taxing our grid with this building of the techno digital gulag, they are using up more and more energy sources. And so many outlets are, you are seeing one story after another of predicted rolling brownouts, blackouts. This is coming. This is going to be a reality in the next 24 months because of the expansion of the technocracy and the data centers. And so this is when, we need to be prepared. That's why you need the satellite phones and all of these preparation materials. So sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. Let's bring our good Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. So good to be with all of you today. And without further ado, I want to bring in to the Joy Virtual Studio our very good friend. He's my brother from another mother. We share a brain. It is Doc Malik. He is broadcasting from the UK. Kier Starmer implementing the digital ID, telling everyone that, you can't go to work if you don't have the digital ID. It's the first major push. We've been talking about digital ID, digital currency, the technocracy, the establishment of the digital control grid, a global control grid by the techno-fascists. It's all kind of been out there floating around, but this is the first time we are seeing one of the major Western democracies really push this. Let's run that video, if we could, of Kier Starmer. Sounds like he's out of a Star Wars show, Doc. He came out, made this announcement that they are going to implement the new digital ID, the Brit card. And this is what he had to say to the good people of Great Britain, who, by the way, don't seem too happy about all this. Let's roll that video and then we'll go to Doc.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes, looking upstream to tackle poverty, conflict.
And he goes on and on. It feels like Joe Biden circa 2021 and 22, you can't go to work. You can't engage in society unless you take our poison shots. Doc Malik joins us today. He's in the belly of the beast in the UK amidst this announcement. How are you doing over there? Are you able to work, Doc? What do you think about this new initiative?
Yeah, I just need to reach for my vomit bag after watching that clip. I mean, where do I begin? So can I quickly just run through a few things? What you couldn't see on that clip that you kindly played was there's a ticker tape at the bottom, okay? But the key point, he goes, let me say again. And then he puts his hands like this. Now, where have we seen this before? This upside down triangle business. Right? Your president does this a lot. Our prime minister does it a lot. This is a signal to his masters. It's not to us. No one does that. Have you ever, never in my 50 years have just put my hands together like this. I have no desire. But you know, some people somehow, for some reason, like to do that. Why is this important? Because actually, believe it or not, Kier Starmer, our beloved leader, Kier Starmer, is in a kind of like a little triangle with Trump and a guy called Ellison. Don't know if you know about this guy, Oracle's Ellison. Maybe you might be thinking, where am I going with this? So let me explain. So Kier Starmer is a Fabian. He's a member of the Fabians, which is a Marxist subversive group. Their logo is wolves in sheep's clothing. He's a member of the Trilateral Commission. You might not know that. And he's a member of WEF. And once he was asked, where would you rather be? Whitehall, the Parliament, like DC, or would you rather be in Davos, where the WEF? And he said Davos. So since then, he's got a nickname called the Davos Man. Now, what's ironic is that the leader of our country, the prime minister, is actually a globalist. He is the least patriotic man you can find, and he's leading our country. Now, if that's not an indication of the clown world that we live in, I don't know. But listen, very quickly, this digital ID launch is not going to happen. This is by design a psyop. What do I mean by that? When COVID, lockdowns, masking, mandates, all that kind of stuff came through, you had this massive campaign of fear, coercion, nudging, behavioral manipulation, propaganda, or the whole shebang. There was none of that on this occasion. What you had was a robotic individual speak out in a very draconian, authoritarian way, something that's just nonsensical. He states that you need digital ID to stop the migrants. So hold on one second. When they come over on their boats, will they be required to show their digital ID? I don't think so. When these migrants are working in this country on the black market, do you think they care about the national insurance number, the tax number you have to give? Of course they don't. The people who are employing them illegally are doing so illegally. You think when their digital ID comes through, they're going to say, oh, show me your digital ID on your government app. Of course they won't. So there's no way this is going to stop mass migration. That's a lie. That's a pretext. And you know what? The British people know this, and that's why the petition's gone through the roof. It's like almost 3 million now. He was never going to push it through. The reasons, the rationale, the way he's delivered it is all botched up. And I think that's by design, because the whole point is to prime us. So there's a fake right opposition, and they're going to say, oh, no, this is terrible, and we would never do such a thing. And the nudge is to change us from having a Labour government to now a Reform government. And when Reform come into power, they will reintroduce this brick card digital ID, but under a different name, under a different pretext, because of some false flag or World War. And then we will all say, well, you know what? Our beloved leader, Nigel Farage, believes in our freedom of rights, and at least he's not a Fabianist and a Marxist. If he says this is good for us, then we'll adopt it. This is what I think is actually going on. I think this whole digital ID right now is a psyop. But let's go back in time a bit. There's a guy called Tony Blair. I don't know if you know him, but he looks like the character out of Scrooge. He's basically like a corpse who's still walking. Now, Tony Blair, it was also a member of the Fabians. It's also a globalist. It's also a WEF man. Now, he, 20 odd years ago, was really pushing for digital ID. Now, he's got contacts with Larry Ellison, head of Oracle. You know, that 80-year-old multi-billionaire freak show who on the second day after Trump came in was standing next to him talking about 500 billion Stargate infrastructure for AI. Guess what? Big bucks coming for him and his company and his family dynasty.
That's right.
I think he's also involved in the recent takeover at TikTok. Also close buddies with Elon Musk. But I mean, let's move on from there. But if you go Google Tony Blair and Larry Ellison, you'll see pictures of them going back 10, 15, 20 years. You know, they've been best chums for a while. But what's really interesting is, what did Larry Ellison say last September? We're going to have supervision. Every police officer is going to be supervised at all time. And if there's a problem, AI will report that problem and report it to the appropriate person. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we are constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. Does that sound like what you want? Do you want to be constantly supervised and reported on? And now, why am I talking about Ellison? So Ellison has given £257 million to our friend Tony Blair, Tony Blair's Institute, in just the last 3-4 years. Now, do you think Larry Ellison gave him £257 million because he likes the fella? Or do you think it's an investment? And if it's an investment, what's the return? Right? And what is Tony Blair talking about? Tony Blair's talking about digital ID, and he has been for years. Now, he's also been pushing the Ellison Institute of Technology in Oxford, which is also, you know, the chairman is Ellison of Oracle. And they've got a £700 million deal with 4 Whitehall departments in the UK, right? They're entrenched in the government with contracts. And Tony Blair is introducing them to everybody. And that company, Oracle, is primed to get any contract if the digital ID goes ahead. I mean, they're already embedded within the government, millions of pounds of contracts. So what I'm trying to say is, like, Tony Blair, Ellison, they're all linked to this digital ID. And Ellison is really quite closely linked to Trump. You should hear some of the comments that Trump has said about Ellison, who I believe has visited the White House several times. So what I'm trying to say is, this isn't left, right, Democrat, Republic. This is them against us. For their technocratic one world government with central bank digital currencies, with tracking, with control, they need us all to have the mark of the beast, us to have the digital IDs. This is how important the digital ID is to them. It's the key. It's the linchpin to everything. And that's why they're determined to push it through. And that's why I think this botched version of the launch of digital ID is a psyop. There's no way it's going to work. It's never meant to be. Seriously.
So what I'm hearing from you is that in the UK, in Great Britain, you have, very similarly to the United States of America, a fake ass 2-party uniparty system where both political parties play, 3-party. So they all play against each other and divide the good people of the United Kingdom constantly. This guy, Kier Starmer, is kind of a lefty, Fabian socialist, Hitler-esque kind of guy, right? And so he's scaring the pants off of the conservatives, the Nigel Farage people. And so right now he's ruling this out. He's botching it a little bit, but that's going to drive a resistance in the UK that will bring in the Nigel Farage kind of wing of the techno-fascist takeover. And they'll figure out some way to kind of usher this in and trick their own people into accepting some new form of this, similar to what we're seeing here with Donald Trump. And to your point, Project Stargate, it was a 2025 AI initiative, just so that we can see how Larry Ellison is not only moving and shaking in the UK and across the globe, but also here in the US. A $50 billion joint venture launched in January, just days after Trump was inaugurated, by OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and an investment firm, MGX, which is Stargate LLC. This is when we saw Donald Trump flanked by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, Larry Ellison, chairman of Oracle, and Maya Yoshi's son, the CEO of SoftBank. And that was, I mean, our first clue that this was going to be the single most important initiative of the Trump administration, furthering the techno-fascists and the technocracy. And the goals here: secure U.S. leadership in AI and reindustrialize the country and create hundreds of massive data centers. And I mean, the location, I mean, there are a million problems with the data centers. But again, they've got to collect the data in order to feed the system, the beast, in order to have all the information that AI can use to control us. And the only way they can do that is through getting us into these digital IDs. So you think this is going to fail spectacularly in the UK, which is also good for us, though. Even if the optics are, even if it's for the wrong reasons, the optics of the failure, I think, are positive. So tell me about the resistance in Great Britain right now, because it has been swift. I mean, 2 million people signing this petition. And he's saying, what are the nuts and bolts of this rollout, according to Kier Starmer? When are people going to lose their jobs if they don't have a digital ID? And what do you think in terms of the resistance? Like, what is happening in the UK right now, and how are people resisting it, so that we can prepare here in the US to follow you?
Okay. So before I answer that, I just want to quickly mention that fella, Ellison, he also, with Oracle, funded and developed China's whole digital public sector IT system. All the management tools, all the enterprise software, all the database systems, all that e-government control and bureaucracy, he helped develop.
No
so
way.
This is what I mean by, when you say big bad China, China, guess what? American tech helped build that system.
Hey,
American tech is now in Trump Oval Office and now in the UK. And so, I'm going to come to that. Yeah, anyway, carry on.
Well, I want to actually support you in that statement. I do have a video, a new propaganda video. It's 1.5 minutes, and they're rolling this out in China. If you want to truly understand how horrifying and dark and dystopian these social credit scoring systems tied to digital ID and digital currency, all you have to do is look to this very plucky young propagandist from China. They are pushing this out to the people of China. They've implemented the digital ID plus the digital currency. They've seized control of billions of Chinese people's bank accounts and are now using this to control them. But I wanted you to take a look at this video so that people can understand what Larry Ellison, right-hand man to President Trump and the Republican administration, and also moving and shaking in the UK to implement this. He is the guy that built this in China. Take a look at the reality of a digital ID and a social control system in China, because it's quite frightening. Go ahead.
Trustworthy people should be given enough rewards, but for those who break trust should also pay for it. It brings me to another part of the government social credit system. Here I am at the Supreme People's Court in Beijing. Till February 2019, over 30 million people are named in a list of dishonest persons subject to enforcement by this court. They cannot go traveling by planes. They cannot go traveling by high-speed trains. They cannot go to luxury restaurants, and they can't get a golf courses. They are unable to get an insurance, and they can't even rent a house. If trust is broken in one place, restrictions are imposed everywhere. Actually, personal scoring system has been present in the West for decades. For example, eBay has a rating system for shipping times and communication. Uber passengers and drivers both rate each other. And many companies in the US are using FICO scores to determine many financial decisions. China's social credit system only expands that idea to all aspects of life. This is a very trustworthy mechanism. Both data and rating are used responsibly and with citizens' permission. I do believe that it will help us to have a better life.
Doesn't that just look lovely, right? They're responsible. The government people and corporate people use this information ethically to help everyone, and we're just going to have a better life. And thank you, Larry Ellison. He is the one who put that in place in China. Absolutely frightening. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, very, very Black Mirror. Absolutely freaking terrifying. Anyway, back to your question about what's happening here. Look, most people, even if they've been vaccinated, are like, I'm not doing digital ID. I'm not doing it. Like, the petition is huge. I don't believe in any petitions. Petitions are only good for wiping your ass, but it's at least an indication of where the public is. And the reality is, where is this whole digital ID thing? Very embryonic, consultation phase, blah blah blah. And this is what I mean. It's going to be knocked down. It's going to be used to demolish the Labour Party and Kier Starmer. It's not going to go through. I mean, there's a couple of marches and protests are organized, but what's even more telling is the mainstream media and the newspapers. You can look it up, Daily Mail online, are talking about how people are against digital ID, and Boris Johnson, our ex-prime minister, speaking out against it. Nigel Farage is speaking out against it. Listen, folks, when it came to COVID, do you think the mainstream media gave us any opposing views? Never. Liberal Democrats, Brexit Party, Reform, Conservatives, Labour, they were all singing from the same hymn sheet. Lockdown, mandates, social distancing, vaccines. Look, the reality is, if they're giving you an opposing view now, it's by design. Because they don't want this to fail. They're herding and corralling us all, so we give up on Kier Starmer. And I want to talk about something that's really important, okay? This is so important for your listeners to understand, and they might find it difficult to accept. But parties in the UK like Reform, or in your case, Trump, MAGA, your Rhino, Republican Party, it's Republican name only, they are part of the problem. They are a branch of the Uni Party. Okay, politics is a Punch and Judy show. Oh, yes, he did. Oh, no, he didn't. That's all it is, right? And it's the same puppet master. And the problem is, every politician is an actor. Every change of government is a costume change. And, Rishi Sunak, our Conservative Prime Minister, handed the baton over to Kier Starmer. And now Kier Starmer is getting ready to hand the baton to someone like Nigel Farage. Politicians come and go. The policies never change. Funny that, isn't it? I mean, you can say whatever you like about Biden. I didn't like the fella. But the reality is, not much is changing. We're still getting the same AI, same march towards technocracy. The tech bros are in power. I mean, look, I'm going to come to something really, really important. They pushed us with the woke left agenda, right? And they straight into the arms of the false, fake conservative right. That's what people need to understand. That they never want us to have a real choice. They always want to control the opposition as well, so that we believe in the illusion of democracy. Like you said on my podcast, the greatest thing they fear is that people will wake up to the idea that there is no democracy. That's the thing they need to protect. And the reality is, every party, every leader, every politician has signed up to Agenda 2030. No one ever talks about that. And the mainstream press, influencers, even much of the so-called alternative space are nudging us towards one direction. Oh, Trump. Remember how he got into power, and now it's Farage reform. But listen, look, if you think the problem begins and ends with migration, drag queens, and wokeism and the libtards, you're only scratching the surface. Look, I hear you. Those are problems. They are legitimate problems. But I'll tell you what's even bigger. I'll tell you what's even worse than those, right? The real existential threats to our countries and to the West are, and you might not like to hear this, are the Israeli and Zionist lobbies, AIPAC and Palantir and Oracle and Digital IDs and BlackRock and Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and the technocrats and flock surveillance and the UN and the WHO. These are the people that we should be freaking terrified of. They're the ones who are the biggest threat to humanity right now. Not your little drag queen school hour. I mean, I hate that crap, but like they're small fish in comparison.
Yeah.
And the problem is, even now, this whole digital ID, the way you're like, oh, let's talk about this. Yes and no, because this is just pantomime. This is not going to go through. Mark my words. This will not go through. I'm more worried about World War III around the corner. I'm more worried about the false flags, the cyber attacks, the terrorist attacks, the big catastrophic event that will terrorize the population, put us into fear, and then that will be used to introduce the real digital ID. And from there, basically the enslavement of humanity. Now, why the UK last? Because believe it or not, other countries have already fallen. Australia, Switzerland, Germany, much of the EU, because there's something about the UK. I mean, people say the American Constitution. You know what? We've got a Bill of Rights, 1688. We've got the Magna Carta. We have in our laws enshrined freedoms that say above man is God, the authority. And, the king is first amongst equals. Like, politicians are not above us, they're below us. But the reality is everything's been inverted. So politicians are at the top, then their agents, then us, and God at the bottom. And we need to somehow reclaim that sovereignty. But the Brits in the UK, something in their genes is telling them this is wrong and we need to fight for our freedom. And that's why I think they're trying all these subterfuge. And remember Fabian, wolf in sheep's clothing. And if that's a physical image, the words are, by deception, thou shalt wage war. Mossad's thing. It's all deception. This is a war on humanity.
So what I'm hearing from you now, I do think that this resistance to the digital ID is important. I think that we agree with you in this sense. I do believe we are moving forward to some type of impact event. We don't know what the impact event will be. We don't know when the impact event will be. They're going to try to move us into World War III. They're going to try to frighten us with nuclear war. There will be violence. There will be headlines about violence. There will be shootings. And every one of those instances, it will be similar to a COVID level atom bomb, right? Remember during COVID, when the entire world shut down, both the left and the right were marching to the tune of the same drum. That's when you knew, when the left and the right come together, that's when you know that they're going to implement something. However, I do believe that the way that we survive and we win and we secure maybe another 50 years, maybe another 70 years of freedom and liberty for our children is simply by not complying. It is not being afraid, not allowing the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news cycle to impact the way that we feel about the world, not listening to the way that people tell us the world is. Look at the way the world is in your own area, your own community, your own four corners, being prepared, finding community. And so I personally think that a critical element, in the same way that we needed that critical number of humans to reject the COVID shots, and they did, right? And that has now created a whole tsunami of problems for the pharmaceutical companies who are now trying to kind of put that apparatus back together. People just don't want them. Like the culture is reacting to vaccines in an appropriate way. I think that we are going to have the same cultural resistance and rejection of the digital ID. And I think it's happening. I think that more and more people are just very creeped out by the whole thing. They're creeped out by, in fact, I think we don't have to play it now, but I don't think, they must have buy-in from us, and they must have compliance from the people, the consent of the governed to get this done, no matter what people think. They're not that powerful. And so that's where I think that you're right. And we do, I agree. There are moneyed interests, shadow interests. I mean, you would say Israeli intelligence. I agree they're terrible, but I think the American intelligence is just as bad. I think the British intelligence is bad. I think that they're all kind of working together. And so I don't want to sometimes I think like uber focus on the Israelis is actually drawing attention away from Donald Trump, the Republican Party, US intelligence, who are up to no good here in the United States of America. And so I don't want it to, I don't want to be pigeonholed into it's just them, like they're the ultimate bad guys. I think at the end of the day, we're dealing with criminal cartels. They have taken over our governments. They work together. Hopefully they will be waging war against each other. If they think that they're going to gain all the power, hopefully they'll start fracturing and fighting with one another. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that. But I think the mission here, and you can tell me what you think about like how to get out of this, is to reject all of those narratives and pull yourself out of the party systems, and then emancipate and prepare yourself in a variety: guns, gold, cash, learning how to farm, relationships of trust. That's what Catherine Austin Fitts would say, as we kind of hunker down for like the next big thing. Your thoughts on that? And also, what do you think the next big thing is going to be? And do you have an idea about the timeline and when it's going to happen?
Yeah, I'm going to answer the last one first. But listen, I agree with the whole Israeli intelligence thing. They're all these intelligence companies, institutions and whatever, the MI5, MI6, CIA, NSA, Mossad, they all work together. They're all the same. They're just little branches, outfits. It's 100%. And they don't even work for the governments. They work for the people, the shadow governments behind. So I 100% agree. Listen, for total giggles sake, I wish it was like a total alien invasion. Like I would just piss myself laughing. I would love that to be the case. Like, amazing footage of these humongous spaceships eclipsing the sky and, some far off place in the world. And we're like, oh my God, the aliens have arrived. And I would fucking love that. Like that. And everyone losing their shit all around me and, cults appearing, worshiping the aliens and the Pope saying that God is an alien.
I can see it.
Maybe Jesus doesn't exist. All that I would fucking love that. I'd love, all the mullahs and the rabbis going, oh, the alien is God. And, oh my God, we got it wrong and all that kind of shit. Love it. Love that shit to take place. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I could see that happening, couldn't you? I mean, that would just be funny. That would be so fucking funny. But the reality is, I think what they want is like a third world war. But even that, we don't know how much of it will be real. Because we just see what's on TV and there's so much deep fake and artificial crap, but they might literally be sending our kids off to get bombed by our own drones. I mean, we don't know what the fuck is happening in some far off place. Wow. God knows what. But, if you look at the financials, the hyper stagflation, we had that just before World War I, just before World War II. And, the economy has been limping like a zombie on life support, right?
Yeah.
It is well overdue, this massive correction. And throw in a little bit of human sacrifice and culling of humanity. And you know what? The people at the top will be rubbing their hands with glee. So I think next year, you're going to see some major conflict. You're going to see potentially us all our countries getting roped in and young boys being signed up to go and fight off in a war far away. And guess what? Then when you have a war, kind of suspend the constitution, your human rights, your laws and everything. You don't need elections anymore. It's this perpetual crisis. You can do anything you like to the economy. You can bring in your digital ID, your digital currency, because it's a war. It's a global war. Like, are you not a patriot? Like, are you working for the enemy? Like, everything goes out the window. It's all for play. Big war works. It's worked since the French Revolution. So I'm concerned about war because the money, it's all about the money. Look at the money. Look at the price of gold. Look at the bond market. Look what's happening. It's imploding. And the truth is, it should have imploded a long time ago. But they weren't ready for it to collapse because they hadn't positioned themselves in a place where they were still going to be on top in the after. Now, I think they're more confident that they're going to be on top after the implosion. So it's all full steam ahead. So there's a lot at stake now, and people just need to keep their wits about them and be prepared. Like you said, have the food, have the guns, have the gold, have the silver, have the communities, but also don't live in fear. Like just get out in nature for a while and just unplug from all the fear. They want you to live in perpetual fear. Don't live in fear. And you're talking about digital IDs. Everyone who's listening to this and thinking, I'm not signing up to digital ID. I mean, that's very British, but say it in America, I'm not signing up to some digital ID. I mean, I don't know if that's American. But like, get your loyalty cards, get your store cards, and cut them up. You know, all those points, all those rewards that you get, all those things, they're training you like rats in a maze. They're giving you a little bit of food because you're a good little pet. They get to harvest your data, track how you spend, your shopping habits, build a picture of you that they can manipulate and advertise and target for a few points and a few discounts and maybe an extra commode here and there. Look, cut up your cards, throw them in the bin. Can you imagine, like, those 2 million people who've signed the petition in the UK? Can you imagine 2 million people ripped up their store cards? What all the executives and the board would be saying? They'd be like, oh my God, they got rid of all the cards. We have no data anymore. We don't know what they're doing anymore. Yeah. Like, there's so many things we can do, but people need to stop waiting for their saviors, their Trumps, their Katie Hopkins, their Tommy Robinsons, their Farages, and they need to wake the frack up and reclaim their sovereignty and their power, because they are divine beings. God resides within you. And, I mean, just look, if you don't mind, I'm going to quote a little bit of the Bible, which is kind of funny because I'm not religious and I'm not a Christian. But you know what? There's good stuff in all these, and these gospels and stuff. So look, in Luke 17, 2021, the kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor will they say, see here or see there. For indeed, the kingdom of God is within you. And then I'm going to say another one. Corinthians 1:16. Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? Now again, if you're a Christian or anyone, you listen to that and that kind of resonates within you. The divine spark is within you. And Shannon, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. And I nod to you and pay respect to that. Folks, think about that. You have the divine spark in you. So stop eating the junk food. Don't pull up at the driveway at McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever. Don't have that milkshake. Don't vape that cherry vape. Don't watch those TikTok videos. You got the divine spark in you. What the fuck are you doing? All this shit. And that's a reality. Unless you act like there's a bit of divine in you, you're going to be treated like shit by these psychopaths. We have forgotten who we are.
Right. Well, and we are created in the image of God. And that is something that is prevalent in our founding documents and your founding documents, a very reverent acknowledgement of a divine creator. And as a Christian, I am a Christian, and I love those scriptures. I've read them 4 or 5 times over, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Going back to God and acknowledging and submitting and repenting and being in a relationship with our natural creator, I do believe is the first step. And it takes away the power of these control freak, megalomaniac, sociopathic, malignant narcissists that think they are gods. And I think that really is the core of this cabal of elitists. I think that because we have been apathetic, we have been lazy, we have not recognized the divine within us and our responsibilities to be stewards, in whatever talents or treasure that we have in this life. We have allowed these malignant sociopaths to amass such an amount of power that they are able to do a lot of harm to a lot of people. And this is no different. We have seen war over the past 4,000 years of human history, this is no different. It might look a little different. The technology might change, but human nature is no different than it was 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. The nature of man never changes, just the technology. And these guys think because they have their super fancy technology, which by the way isn't very super fancy, it's actually quite clunky. I don't think it's nearly as impactful or functioning as they would say that it is. But they think because they have a brutal case of God complex that they can create some kind of utopia here on earth. And so this is when we say to them, you are not gods. You do not have jurisdiction or authority over this natural world or over me, right? A divine human created in the image of our natural God who we submit to. So we submit and honor the true natural God. We throw you out, away with you, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ is what I would say, because there's power there. But I agree with you 100%. Like that's the posture that enough people need. And again, we don't need everyone to function this way. We just need a small enough remnant to spark, that resistance. And then I think we're going to be okay, right?
Yeah. Can I help you? I want to do a little thought experiment. I want you to close your eyes. Shannon. I want everyone listening to close your eyes. Okay. Now, right now, a lot of people are scared to speak up. They go, what can I say? What can I do? You're on the battlefield. Imagine you're lining up on the battlefield. And most people right now feel they're holding like a garden rake or like a shovel, and they're just in some loincloths, and they're feeling very weak and, very pasty, and they don't have much muscle on them. And across the battlefield is a row of Terminators, shiny with lasers, and they think, I can't do anything. Now I want you to listen to me, and this is the reality. Not only has God got your back, he's within you. You're not that skinny little dweeb with a garden rake. You're this shining golden lion. You are immense. You are huge. You are so big and superhuman. You have no idea. And in front of you, those shiny Terminators, no, they're rust buckets. They're so decrepit and rusty, and they're like screws and bolts are just falling off. And it was all just an illusion. That power, that strength they had was nothing. And you know what?
Yep.
We are God's army, and we just need to believe it and understand who we are, and we can easily defeat them. That's the thing. That's the awakening, understanding who we are and how magnificent we are and how weak and pathetic they are. And if they weren't, why would they be desperately trying to clutch to power and control? What have they got to fear? Only a weak, scared kind of person does that. Someone who's brave and comfortable in themselves doesn't do that. I'll end with that.
Absolutely brilliant. And I agree with you. And I love that process that we just went through, because I think you're absolutely right. We have so much. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. You guys know I've been out on a limb. I've been far out on a limb on a lot of things. And very often it feels like it's just me and Jesus, right? Because no one else is there. But when you're so far out on that limb, man, you see absolute miracles and things that you never thought could be accomplished can be accomplished through our Creator, through God. And so I love that. I love this discussion in context of what they're gonna throw at us, and we're gonna continue to work together, Doc, as long as we need to break through all of this, the illusions and the distractions and the manipulations. It is hard today with the deep fakes and some of the new technologies to kind of see through these manipulations. But I think, and I've been doing this for 12 years, we have about 2 minutes left. I'll give you the last 2 minutes. But I think in the 12 years that I have been doing this, I have never seen people waking up as fast as I'm seeing them wake up today. People throwing themselves out of the two-party political paradigm, people watching things on the news and saying, I don't believe that. That looks fake to me. I don't care what you're going to tell me on the news media. I don't care what kind of scary thing you're going to throw at me. I don't believe anything that you say because you're liars. And that's all you've done. You've lied to us for years and years and years. And I think that is the key to just pushing back, and their strongholds will crumble. And that doesn't mean that what we have in the wake of it will be perfect. There will never be a utopia, but maybe we can secure, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, maybe we can secure a couple more decades of freedom and liberty and friendship and collaboration and, being able to pursue happiness and our faith in a free society. And so I'll leave it with you to close up, Doc, but really appreciate you. You guys can support Doc Malik at his website. I want to bring that here for you. I have it here somewhere. And follow him on Twitter. His handle on Twitter is at Doc Ahmed Malik, and his website is docmalik.com. So www.docmalik.com. He's independent, so he needs your support. You should support him and make sure that his voice is continuing. Let people know how they can support you, how they can find all of your stuff, and any of your closing thoughts.
Next time I come on your show, I'm going to wear an alien mask, and I'd love you to do the same.
Okay, let's go.
Please. Let's do it seriously, just for giggles. And all I would say is, look, it's easy. It's easy to just want to put your faith in someone else and for them to do the hard work and heavy lifting. That's part of the conditioning, because you went through school and you're just told to be a good little person, a good little pupil, and do as you're told. And when you did what you're told, the teacher gave you, your brownie points and went, well done. Now you need to be a rebel now. You need to think differently and think for yourself. You can't rely on anyone else. And the moment you abdicate your power and your responsibility and give your power away to someone else, a politician, a savior, you've given away your power. Don't give away your power. God never gave you that power for you to give it to someone else. It's not your power to give away. Your inalienable rights are just that. It's not, you do not have the right to give away your rights to anyone else. So hold on to them.
Amazing. The amazing Doc Malik. Love collaborating with you. We have more to do. I know that you and I are going to be doing more. Very, very important months ahead in the history of civilization. I think we are in historic times, and everything that we do matters. Everything that you do matters, right? If you think, in relation to Doc's amazing exercise that we just did, that you're powerless and that you can't do anything, think again. Change that thinking, because we're going to need citizen journalists. We're going to need people in local communities to stand up and speak out. We're going to need as many independent people operating from outside of those party paradigms, ready to resist. And it's going to matter. So thank you so much, Doc Malik. We are so thankful for you and all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. You have a great day. And you guys have a great day as well. Again, make sure you follow Doc on Twitter at Doc Ahmed Malik. That's Doc Ahmed Malik. It is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, and also support him at docmalik.com. We are so thankful for our sponsors here at the Shannon Joy Show and all of you. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.